The Honourable Member for Etobicoke Centre.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to talk on Bill C-51 today, the Safer Witnesses Act, and I thank all of my colleagues across the House for their interventions, and I, of course, thank the NDP for supporting this bill. I think they're flawed in some of their arguments, but they are supporting us, and that's tremendous. And I'd like to share with you why I support Bill C-51, why my constituents and my community organizations in Etobicoke Centre support it, Mr. Speaker, and why I think that it represents an important step forward in making the protection of witnesses an effective and relevant program for our country today and law enforcement in the future. And Mr. Speaker, I have two divisions in my riding, 22 Division, 23 Division of Metro Toronto Police Service. And I spoke to Staff Sergeant Doug McDonald today at 22 Division, and we discussed the bill, and he told me something rather interesting. And he said that the eyes and ears of the police is the public. We oftentimes see, the TV shows on police forensic investigators and other types of shows, and they're oftentimes misleading. It gives the public the wrong perception of how you can link forensic evidence to a perpetrator, and it shows in the course of an hour, a major forensic investigation being done, or the police on their own being able to link a perpetrator to a particular crime. But that's not always the way it works, Mr. Speaker. A lot of the forensic evidence is most certainly there, but oftentimes they're not able to take that one further step and definitively link it to the perpetrator, because we are a country of rule of law. And before somebody can be charged for serious crimes or crimes at all, the police have to be absolutely sure that they have the right man. Oftentimes they may know it in their heart of hearts, but without the public stepping forward, without witnesses coming forward, they have a very difficult time in being able to achieve that. And so this act is hugely important in being able to solve those cases by giving the confidence to the public, by giving the confidence to witnesses to step forward, and be able to confidently provide testimony to put serious criminals away and safeguard our streets and our communities, Mr. Speaker. And I have to give a shout out to Metro Toronto Police Service. They are outstanding under Chief William Blair, who, by the way, Mr. Speaker, interesting to note, and I think this House would like to note, that Metro Toronto Police Service sends 10 officers abroad every year to serve as mentors and police liaison in very dangerous places around the world, like Afghanistan, for example, and help bring rule of law to those people in those lands. And I thank Metro Toronto Police Service for doing just that. Mr. Speaker, our government is committed to ensuring the safety and security of constituents in Etobicoke Centre, but as I said, unfortunately, violence still does occur. In 2011, Toronto had 86 homicide victims, and on July 5th, 2012, Abdul Elmi was killed in a hail of gunfire in a quiet street in my riding in Etobicoke Centre. It was believed he was a member of the gang Sick Thugs. Community organizations not wanting to see any more bloodshed advocated for the strengthened witness protection programs, and our government listened, and we have acted, Mr. Speaker. And as we have heard in these debates and these interventions, this bill will make important amendments to the Witness Protection Program Act, which has been in place since 1996. And since then, Mr. Speaker, Canada's Witness Protection Program has served our police services well and has forged many new identities for those who have risked much to see justice through to the end. However, as time passed, it has proven that the Witness Protection Program is in need of fine-tuning. Yeah, absolutely, and it's a program that serves us well, but it could work better, and my constituents agree with that. It's a program that needs to adapt to our changing environment to better protect those who come forward and those who protect them. And this bill will do just that. This proposed legislation acts on a number of recommendations that have come forward from some very key and very tragic events in our history. And these include, for example, a 2008 study by the Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security, the 2010 Commission of Inquiry into the investigation, of course, the bombing of Air India Flight 182, and stakeholder consultations with federal departments and agencies, the provinces, and law enforcement agencies. And I'd like to focus my time here today on how this proposed legislation will address the concerns that we have heard from federal and provincial stakeholders, as well as my own constituents, community organizations, and other stakeholders in Etobicoke Centre who I've spoken to on this important matter, like Staff Sergeant McDonald, who's of course an operator in all of this. Bill C-51 will make the Witness Protection Program more balanced and more secure by allowing for more seamless cooperation among law enforcement services and that's beyond jurisdictions. The federal program differs somewhat compared to the programs currently administered in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. And if there's a need for a witness to be referred to the federal program, that decision rests with a particular law enforcement agency dealing with a specific case. That means the provinces have jurisdiction over what their cases are and can select and use their own good judgment in being able to bring these cases to the RCMP if required. What is consistent among all programs is they are adaptable, allowing decisions to be made, as I say, case by case, factoring all the key information such as the costs involved, the resources available, the level of threat to the witness, and the time needed to appropriately afford protection and safety to those individuals in need. In, for example, complex federal cases, Mr. Speaker, provinces can decide whether to refer witnesses to federal authorities for admission into the Federal Witness Protection Program. And one area that has consistently been raised by provincial stakeholders is the need to streamline the current process for obtaining secure identity changes for protectees in provincial programs. And let me share with you an example of that and how this bill is going to improve how jurisdictions can work together across this country, Mr. Speaker. So when it comes to secure identity changes and federal documents required, we have heard from provinces that the RCMP currently assists only those protectees under federal jurisdiction. Now, the way that this is currently set up means that the provinces must temporarily admit their protectee into the Federal Witness Protection Program in order for the RCMP to assist in a process. By doing this, and provincial stakeholders have been very, very clear on this point, the process can slow down and create time-consuming paperwork and delays that in fact could put lives at risk, and what that can also lead to is then a lack of cooperation by witnesses because it may cause a lack of confidence in the system, and people will be afraid and will not step forward, and thus crimes will go unsolved. And that's something that is an outcome that we don't want, Mr. Speaker. We can all imagine that when it comes to something as significant as a secure identity change, further delay can cause undue stress and hardship, as I said, and for those in need of protection, not to mention those brave individuals on our police forces that are trying very, very hard to safeguard the safety of our communities. Now, the changes of C-51 will improve federal and provincial collaboration, and that's something that's come up time and again this evening. Designated provinces will no longer need to have their witnesses entered into the federal program and will retain decisions on who to protect and how. And Bill C-51 will help improve the way jurisdictions work together with a new framework that allow for provincial witness protection programs to be officially designated. This new framework will allow the provincial authority to make a request to the Federal Minister of Public Safety. An official designation will then allow the province to ask that the RCMP assist them in obtaining the necessary federal documents required for a secure identity change for a provincial witness, and this eliminates the need to first admit the witness into the federal program. Furthermore, an official designation would only need to take place that one time. It streamlines the whole process. It's quicker, it's safer, it's faster, and we will get convictions. And we've also heard statements by the provinces asking the RCMP be removed from the process so that the provinces can request secure identity documents directly from federal department. But let's remember that these are not always simple cases, and witness protection is not a typical program. These cases affect an individual's very identity and their personal security, and I believe that the RCMP needs to play a central role in this, and a key role in this, and a single point of contact in order to protect that operational security of this program. So as they say, too many fingers in the pie, and you can ruin that pie. So by doing so, our federal police service adds a level of security that allows for the efficiency and consistency in cases that can and often are very complex. Now, balancing the safety of protectees with the needs of those administering the program is a key feature of Bill C-51, and that's why I'm here today to show my support for these important changes. And it also proposes changes to prohibitions on disclosure. Bill C-51 proposes changes for designated programs such as prohibitions of disclosure will be extended to provincial witness protection, information, the means and methods of provincial witness protection programs, as well as information about those who will provide protection. This prohibition will apply across Canada. I'll just get to the end. Mr. Speaker, I would like to urge all of our honourable members to support Bill C-51. This is an act that is in need of change right now because, as all countries do, we evolve as a nation. We've evolved to the point, especially in our law enforcement, that these changes are required. I think all members of the House have already stated they do support this bill at the end of the day. And for those that may still be troubled by it on the opposition benches, I encourage you to support this bill because it's going to help those people most in need and it's going to help our law agencies do their job the best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question et commentaire, l'honorable député de Québec.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. En fait, j'aurais simplement une question pour mon honorable collègue. Le projet de loi C-51 ne renferme pas de dispositions permettant à un organisme indépendant d'appliquer le programme selon les recommandations formulées dans le rapport d'enquête sur l'affaire Air India. La GRC continuera donc d'assumer la responsabilité du programme, ce qui la placera dans une éventuelle situation de conflit d'intérêts, car elle sera à la fois responsable de l'enquête et elle sera responsable de déterminer qui peut bénéficier d'une telle protection. Donc, qu'est-ce que mon honorable collègue a ajouté à ce propos? Est-ce qu'il entend justement prendre cette recommandation?
The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
I'd like to thank my honourable friend for her question, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, independent agencies can. This has been an expanded program as well now, so it's going to allow federal institutions from national security, those who have a role in national security, national defense, or public safety, to make referrals to the RCMP for possible admission. And of course, it allows, on a case-by-case basis, those related foreign agencies that make submissions to the RCMP and that we have arrangements and MOUs with to make submission as well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable friend for his comments today. Now, I know that the police chief in Calgary Centre, Rick Hansen, in my own riding, as well as the former Justice Minister, were calling for some of the changes that were made in this bill. And I know in particular, one of their concerns was that we need stronger protection to make sure that we can catch bad guys, and especially that people who are eyewitnesses will come forward. And I'm just wondering if my honourable friend could talk about why, what this will do for witnesses, for bringing forward people that can actually help the police to solve crimes.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Centre.
I'd like to thank my honourable friend from Calgary Centre for her question, Mr. Speaker. It's a great question, and it's one that I discussed today with Staff Sergeant Doug McDonald at 22 Division Metro Police. And he told me quite clearly that what this bill will do, he's looking forward to its passage because there in Etobicoke Centre and Etobicoke generally, Etobicoke North, Etobicoke Centre, Etobicoke Lakeshore, there is some serious crime. There's some serious gang crimes. There have been some serious crimes perpetrated right across, and oftentimes what's preventing the solution to that crime is witnesses having the courage to step forward and being able to provide testimony. He is convinced and sure that with the new provisions in this Act, Mr. Speaker, that's going to provide the confidence for those people involved, those witnesses involved, to be able to step forward, be assured of their security, and help Metro Police put some bad guys away and solve a lot of cases. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? L'honorable député de Gaspésie-Île-de-la-Madeleine.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'ai écouté attentivement au discours de notre collègue Etobicoke Centre, puis il a soulevé des points qui sont quand même très intéressants. Mais j'aimerais savoir son point de vue sur un témoignage qui a été fait au comité au mois de mars, 19 mars cette année. C'était Alec Mukherjee. He's the president of the Canadian Association of Police Boards, and he said, "Our conclusion has been that there needs to be more funding available than currently is the case. Without the availability of sufficient funding, our ability to take advantage of the program will be limited." What are your comments on that?
Very interesting.
I have no comments on that, but I'm sure the honourable member from Etobicoke Centre would like to respond.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my honourable friend for the question. It's a well-considered question. But if he reads the other testimony of all the other police forces as well, this individual seems to be somewhat in the minority in terms of that respect, because much of this is an enhanced program. As we heard from one of our other honourable colleagues, the province, the federal government, and municipalities have a funding formula that they work out. The resources in the RCMP's case, they feel that they have enough resources. I know through my own time in the military when things like this came up, not exactly template, but when things like this came up. Oftentimes it was administrative changes into the way we do our actual operations and the way we conduct the procedures that change, but that doesn't often come with a price tag. I think all levels of government will be able to review this as this bill is passed and goes forward, and if there are any changes down the road, those levels of government can reallocate funds that are downloaded from the federal government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.